It's nice having two computers so that I can look at one and do the, oh, thanks, Mike. Okay, so we'll call the Parks and Rec Committee meeting to order for Monday, May 18th, 2020. I'll do a roll call. Jennifer Bonte.
Here.
Sarah Borkert. Oh, she's on mute. Okay, Mike Axon.
There, Sarah, are you?
I'm here. I muted myself, but apparently I can't unmute myself, so I will stop.
Can try and change that for you if you'd like.
I just like to mute myself in case my children start screaming in the background.
Okay. And I know Bill Chang is joining us. I don't know if he's going to be here for the whole meeting or not, but just to make sure that our all the technical stuff is working out fine. Okay, public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the committee on any issue, either on or not on the current agenda. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the committee encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Oh, hi, Melissa.
Hello, everybody.
We just did our roll call, so Melissa Hintz is also here. Do we have any public comments? How would that come to you, Bill or Mike?
It would come to me. I did not receive any in a chat or any otherwise. We do have people on here currently. Ron Nutowski will be on here to discuss things about the mountain biking. I did unmute him if there's something you'd like to state there. And then I have a phone number on here that I don't know. I'll unmute them.
Hi, everyone. This is Ron Kanatowski. I thought I would just speak during the portion that's on the agenda.
Okay. So did you get any public comments submitted to you electronically, Mike, before the meeting?
I did not.
Okay. Okay, I guess we'll move to reports, starting with me, the committee chairperson. I don't have any specific reports other than the things that we're going to be discussing on the agenda. Any committee members have reports?
I just wanted to say that I appreciate very much the spaces we've had for recreation during this time. I know my family has really enjoyed it and it's in such great shape, so that has been really great. So I just wanted to say a thank you to Parks and Rec because that has been a savior for us.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, Mike, we'll turn over to you.
Well, first, thank you, Sarah, and thanks everybody for taking this time to meet tonight. Obviously, things in our department have done a lot of changing kind of on the day, depending on what information we're getting. I've tried to kind of include a lot of the things that we have done to date in my report with some pictures for you, as they can be kind of nice to look at from time to time. Just some of the accomplishments during COVID-19. We're obviously on webinars and phone calls almost daily with Dane County Public Health. We've been involved with the league a little bit, but mainly Dane County Public Health on kind of the direction where we're going and kind of where we want to get to. And then also a number of the parks and recreation professionals throughout our state, but mainly within Dane County, a lot of the ones that we work with quite often. So we have been in discussion at least daily on what they're doing, what their objectives are, and kind of how we get to the point of being able to open for all the programs and or facilities moving forward. Up to that date, the 4 full-time workers that we have been working throughout this entirety. So we've kind of switched gears into park maintenance, trail maintenance, trying to get out and do different things that we haven't been able to do usually, especially in the spring as we're planning for summer to date. So we, as you can see throughout the pictures there, we've been able to do a number of burns throughout our conservancy areas. We knocked off about 5 of them this spring, so that's 5 more than we usually get in the spring. Usually we're trying to do those in the fall or pre-winter, so we'll see what kind of, cold weather grasses and things kind of pop up throughout this time, as we were able to do it during a different season. Restoration continues on Dorothy Scott's Park and or Conservancy. If any of you have been down there, you've noticed a large number of trees that have been removed from the creek bank and kind of throughout the field area. I have received a couple of questions via email about what our plans are and kind of how we got to where we are right now. We are working closely with the plan that was put in place back in 2005 that was done by Scott Taylor. So we're kind of going along that management practice and or plan, and obviously trying to do it without spending a lot of money as well. So that's kind of why, it's been going on for about 2 years now, but we finally get to the point where we're really restoring and removing a lot of the invasives and things that are along that bank. I have received some emails from some trustees. I know Michael Polnikowski has been kind of on this to try and get more information out to the community, which we'll try and do. I have let him know that anybody that has questions or kind of how we're going about can contact me at any time. I'd be happy to sit down with them or go through this via Zoom to talk about it further and get the planning document that we were using up on our website. So hopefully that will give them more information on kind of why we're doing it, where we're doing it, and why it's kind of changed. But if you have been able to get down there, you will notice a large improvement in regards to the open space throughout. What this will do, as well as allow the canopy. Before we had a very large canopy that was not allowing any grasses or anything to grow up through. So now we're going to notice a large number of invasives popping up as well, but we'll be mowing those down, kind of taking care of those without having to put a lot of money into any and or environmental concerns in regards to any spraying or chemical use. So our plan to continue down through there is to kind of manage the property by laying it out, getting a lot of the wood chips and things that we're able to use on the surface and kind of level off the areas that we have high there. So I think about, 20 or so years ago, maybe even more, the DNR had come through and done some dredging along the Brewery Creek. And when they do work, usually they don't necessarily leave it the best. And it appears that when they did the dredging, they left the large mounds of soil laying up there. So we're going to take those and kind of level them off and kind of revamp the trail a little bit so it can go towards the creek, but also back up into the woods and conservancy. So it's kind of our plan moving forward.
Mike,
yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, it's Jennifer Bonte. Did you say that you're going to post that that plan on the village website? That's what you and Michael had talked about. Because my backyard is like 2 backyards away from that, and we're all scratching our heads, going like, "What exactly is going on here again?" Yeah. So it'll be great to review that document with my neighbors too.
Absolutely. I will get that on the village website, and if any of you have questions about it afterwards, feel free to let us know.
Cool, thanks.
This really came about at really putting more effort into this project. A number of the trees that were along that creek side had fallen during a couple of storms. One of them had fallen on a residential property that had a trampoline and a lawnmower that were actually having to be replaced. And so we more or less did kind of on our own tree inventory to kind of see where our problem areas were. And we noticed that a large number of those trees were either box elder, a number of them were ash. We did have a couple of hardwood trees in there that were just too large, taking up a little bit too much of that space. So we do plan to do some new plantings throughout there with some oaks that we're able to use on our own, so not have to go out and spend money on trees, but we'll we kind of have our own little nursery thing started, so we want to make sure that we're able to use our own resources for that.
And Mike, I don't know if this matters to you, but this week, like right now, TDS is working on the yards, laying down the fiber optics in the yards that are like along the same path as the creek. Like the brooks live right next door to the conservancy. And so I didn't see that TDS went into the conservancy, but if that matters to you or not, they're in our yards like today.
Yeah, I don't believe they'll be going through any public space like that. I think they're just more right of ways for where
Sure.
they were before. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Some other projects we were able to work on were cutting back the lips on the small baseball diamonds. So throughout the time, we normally get a lot of soil. We'll get mostly ag lime that'll protrude underneath the outfield. Once that happens for a number of years, you get large lips or large bumps throughout the diamond itself. So we're able to cut those back this year and actually put down some black dirt and some grass seeds. So we're able to take care of that in the spring here instead of doing it in the fall when we're having football and other programs. And we're able to do it without a lot of expense. Doing it at this time has kind of allowed us to do it without having to buy sod. So we're just able to use grass seed to restore that area. And then just lastly, real quick, garlic mustard. I know a number of you have probably seen that in a number of areas throughout our village, not just in our conservancies, but also a lot of in our water reservoir areas or stormwater reservoirs. And the girls got to spend about a week or so trying to eradicate some of the garlic mustard up on Hickory Hill that's been an issue along the roadway. So that's kind of kept them busy for a couple of days. They've also been working on getting mulch around our trees and weeding some of our trees, a lot of the maintenance type stuff that just doesn't get looked at enough that we're able to kind of put more emphasis on currently. So outside of that, they've also been in webinars, phone calls on how we are going to process and go forward with a lot of our camps and programs for the summer, talking with other communities about virtual programming and what's offered. I've kind of put a halt to any virtual program that we would charge for. So if they can come up with program ideas that are free, I'm okay with that. I just really don't feel comfortable with offering a virtual dance or virtual program that someone's done that I feel that you could probably get off YouTube. So we're coming up with some ideas that could be free. We have a couple that may be popping up here shortly, actually. It could be kind of fun for the community to get involved in, but we just don't want to overserve or more or less put too much information out there for the community to always try and be being pulled in different directions for it currently. So if you have any suggestions or ideas, we'd be happy to hear them or email them to us, whatever that may be. So we'd be happy to try them out. But as of right now, that's kind of where we're putting our emphasis. And I believe that's my report, other than the things that we'll talk about here that have taken up most of our time.
One other question for an update, Mike, with regards to the Lions Club Legacy Project. I thought we were going to talk about that pretty much every month, and I didn't know if you had spoken with anyone at Lions with any regards to any change in plan because of canceling Trout Fest and such.
Yeah, as of right now, I haven't heard any change of plans. They did do their ticket program where they went out and I believe that was done last Thursday. I think Mike Patter had completed it. So they're still fundraising for the different projects and things that could go on or for this legacy type project. As of right now, the village board is, in my opinion, is asked to kind of halt all capital type projects or things that aren't necessarily essential. Once things start to open up, I think that'll be put back onto our planning documents. But as of right now, they have not approved any, I should say, haven't approved anything to move forward in regards to this legacy project or even going forward to pick a consultant to work with.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I guess one thing I will discuss then that was on my update as well as the Glacial Valley Playground Project update. That was put on the village board agenda. I think it was the March agenda, if I remember right, which was right out about when all this started to hit. They had approved the purchase from Bolin Recreation for new playground to not exceed the $141,199. That had some interesting changes to it. The option they went with was option 3, which we had recommended, or I had recommended, which was the one that the community had more or less chosen. The way to fund it, though, was done a little bit differently. Instead of using any of the capital funds that we had already pre-budgeted for and borrowed, they decided to use up the Parks and Recreation fund balance, or use up a portion of it, 141,000 of it, leaving about 27,000 or so left over. After that meeting, I kind of talked with Bill a little bit and, said like, just kind of questioning where we're going with the whole COVID thing. And after we had some good discussions about it, we decided that we should hold off on the purchase of that, knowing that we're not going to be able to do a community build at this time. And we're not going to be able to have kids use that playground once it's there. So our plan, kind of moving forward is to bring that back to you and hopefully bring back to the village board and make that decision again with some, maybe some changes to where the financing comes from. But for the most part, it's on board it's set to be done. It's just depending on the financing aspect of it. So that's that. Any questions?
Okay, moving on to committee discussion items. Discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of January 20th, 2020.
All right, so this stuff has been changing almost on the day. I had went to the village board in April to discuss the opening and what that could look like. And I understood that even if things were, in place, I wasn't really sure we'd be able to open by the Memorial Day or shortly after the Memorial Day date. Obviously, the governor's order came forward after that. I keep getting these pop-ups. Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing this for a second.
Are you on the swimming pool, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, let's first step back and do approve the minutes from January.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just don't want to forget to come back to it. So
Yes.
Can I have a motion for that?
Can I ask a question about it?
Yeah.
I couldn't find the minutes.
Yeah, so I believe actually, I'm just going through your packet right now and I don't see them on there. So let's just table that, Sarah, and I'll put them in the packet for your next meeting.
Okay, we can table that till and put it
It
on the
looks
next.
like, and yeah, we can talk about it when we get there too on the 5th one on the policy aspect. It looks like it just came in blank on the packet. Is that what you guys noticed too? Did you read through that? We can talk about it when we get there.
When we get to it, okay. So we'll put the minutes for January into the June meeting agenda and move to the swimming pool.
All right. Sorry, it looked like Melissa was muted and I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all good now. Thank you.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you. Did you have any questions on any of that stuff?
No.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right, let's share this again. All right, sorry about that. All right, so I will put the minutes for the January meeting in next month. I just made a note for myself. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Are you ready, Sarah?
Yes, on to the swimming pool. Discussion and possible action regarding the Cross Plains swimming pool opening for the 2020 season.
All right, so this is ever changing. We did today at 4:18 actually receive the Forward Dane, which is kind of a phased reopening plan for Dane County during this COVID-19 pandemic. I haven't been able to read through it all, but it does give some better indication on how we go about opening for swimming pools and other public related services. Currently, it looks like licensed swimming pools will not be opened through phase one, but we'll have 25% capacity I'm sorry, 25% capacity at phase one and 50% capacity phase two, and then 75% capacity at phase three. Prior to today, we had heard that more or less swimming pools wouldn't be opened or allowed to open until phase three. So this kind of changes that dramatically. The one thing it does state about this metric is that if swimming pools, if any of this were to go in effect, it wouldn't start until May 26th of 2020. So nothing changes until the 26th. And then there'd be a 14-day minimum that they would go through to kind of look over the information to go into the next phase. We haven't been given necessarily, what is allowed, what isn't allowed, other than the capacity, which in my opinion really does help that out. Prior to this, I was having a capacity of 10 as a maximum, where that's really tough to put a budget together to make sure that we're meeting the need of the community and also not going way over budget in regards to our expenses. I have put together what I feel is kind of a best case scenario, making sure that we're able to keep people 6 feet apart. So if we were to have a save or we were to have some emergency action take place and we needed everybody to exit the pool, how do we do that in regards to the deck? How do we keep people 6 feet apart? And how many people could we have in the facility providing we kept them at 6 feet apart? So if nobody was in the water, but they were out on the deck, how many people at a time could we have? And the way that I put it together is to not stagger anybody. Obviously, this doesn't account for families, but it would account for households. So everybody that's not in the same household would be six feet apart. And at that number, I came up with 74. So going out on our deck and kind of looking at our square linear footage on that deck, which we look at about 444 linear feet around the outside perimeter of the pool, we could safely have 74 people in the facility without them being 6 feet, or with them being 6 feet apart. Now that's just general numbers. I mean, that's not stating like exactly how it will happen. That's not putting any new staff training or number of staff members that we may need for such services, but it at least gives us a revenue number to kind of go by or to come to look at the possibility to open.
So Mike, you said, I'm sorry, 74 bodies?
Correct. Not 74 bodies, but 74 spaces. So,
yeah.
So what that would allow for is 6 feet of distance, both or 6 feet linear, and about 15 feet. So it'd be a 6 by 15 space. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I literally just came up with this at 418 once I got this information about what they'd be looking to offer, what they'd be able to allow. So I think over the next few days, I'm going to get better understanding of what can and can't be allowed, or what can and can't be allowed to happen. But I will say that I don't look at opening before July 1st, 2020. So back in April, I did have that discussion with the village board and was given approval to look at that date as our start date.
So I noticed that right before our meeting, a survey came out.
Yes.
Like a 1-question survey. Would you essentially use the pool if it opened up starting July 1st, right?
Yeah. So if we were to open, and obviously we're given approval by the Dane County Public Health, who does all our licenses, as a person in our community that may use our pool or want to use our pool, would you come out and use our pool, providing we had this 6 feet of distance and different safety precautions in place? It more or less are consumer confidence in that regard. So if you're a part of the community and we were to open on July 1, would you as a family want to put yourself at risk at some sense, right? Would you be coming out to our community to use our pool? And if the majority of them are saying likely, then that's great. And if the majority is saying unlikely, then it's, do we pull back on the reins a little bit on the opportunity to open?
What is your understanding of the status for staffing if we open July 1st?
So if we were to open July 1st, I look at our staffing plan that we already have in place, which this is only for open swim, but would need at least a minimum of 4 people working at all times. The reason for that is it's right in line with our emergency management plan that we use, our emergency action plan that we use for all of our different scenarios in regards to saves or anything that would happen on the deck. We need 4 people minimum. A lot of the information that's come out from public health is more or less stating that yes, you can go through your emergency action plans and just like you would have before, but also, you meet people all the time. Okay, but also make sure that you have somebody that's on the deck that is not a lifeguard that is making sure that people are keeping their 6 feet of distance. Throughout that, we've been kind of talking it over a little bit within just our full-time staffing. Could that be one of, if we aren't allowed to do other rec programs, could that be Andrea or could that be Katarina? Could that be me? Do we kind of be that person in between? Or is that just our pool manager, assistant manager that's there and not accounted towards our lifeguard? So we're trying to work through different plans. The way that we see it currently is that if we were to open, we feel that the manager, not having the guard office and things that we did in the past, the manager would be more or less able to serve that purpose as keeping the distance and keeping people safe while they're on the deck. That the manager would also probably be in charge of opening the restrooms when someone is needing it, but also being the one that cleans them once they were to leave. So we would keep those doors locked unless someone needed it, knowing they'd have to come to a manager to go inside to use them, and then also make sure that they're clean once they're done. The other thing that we've been mulling over is the entrance and exit to the facility. We would no longer be going through the restroom areas, so we would unlock both gates on each side, which would take staff members on the entrance gate, but also the exit gate to make sure that they are closed at all times until people are able to enter into the facility. So these are just kind of contingency plans of which are very, just on the surface. We haven't really went through them or even talked to other communities about their scenarios of what they're planning to do. But we just looking at the ways of using our facility and how old it is, and also how people are able to come through the doors, through the restrooms. We're trying to limit the number of people inside a building at all times. So. Any questions?
Well, I guess it's not a question, but more of a comment. It's just not only would we have to, support the 6 feet distance between the residents, the swimmers, and the staff, but also the staff itself would have to be 6 feet away from each other, right? So you're talking about, like, did you say 4 plus a deck manager possibly?
Correct.
And so they would be kind of stationed at least 6 feet apart from each other. I guess they're lifeguards. I guess I'm just trying to wrap my brain around the whole scene,
Yeah. What we were given was, we didn't have to use our staff as part of the patron numbers or part of our capacity numbers, but we obviously had to have staff be able to, when they're not guarding, have time off, just like we normally would. What we would probably do in that scenario is keep them in the guard office in their own seats or in their own spaces with obviously PPE and cleaning materials to do so once they were done. We've also looked at if we were to have all the staff, if we put them in teams, and that's the team that they work with throughout this entirety. It's another option that I've kind of mulled around. The issue we have with that is once things do start opening up or people start going different places, we don't always have the same staff available during that time. So if they have a camp or they have something else going on. So how do we, if one staff member can't make it, does that mean that they all can't make it? Or how do we kind of work around that? So.
Have you also talked about any type of staff? Everybody talks about, and I really don't know, testing, but, is there any conversations around like taking the temperatures of the staff? If one person says they don't feel good, does the whole facility shut down? Is there any kind of monitoring of the staff's health?
Yeah, so a number of them have discussed that, do we take temperatures before everyone comes in for their shifts? That's been in discussion as well. And then also patrons, do we do the same for patrons? It's really hard. That'd be another staff member's job per se. That would be what they were doing. So if we do decide to go that route, we need to include that into our budgets and things as well. So, and then also within that, a lot of these tasks that we would be accounting for and asking for would be, 16 to 17-year-old high schoolers. And I'm not really sure that responsibility should be put in their hands. I don't even know if I would want those responsibilities myself, right? So I think what this, and this is where it kind of comes down to, I think the village board will look at it as a safety point, as should we. The village board is really going to look at this more, I think, from a budgeting standpoint as well, and what implication that's going to have on the taxes or allocated money that we're going to need to run the facility. It's really, and this is where it's been hard to come up with a number for them. I've been trying to go best case and worst case scenarios, and even at best case scenario, I feel like we're probably going to need roughly $40,000 to $45,000 more in tax expense or taxes than what we would have needed in the past. So, that I think, and obviously I don't need any of you to make that recommendation. I don't think tonight, unless you want to, but because there could be other avenues of which we're trying to scratch the possibility for other revenue, right? Like, are there others, and this is just me talking, but are there other, I have been contacted by a couple, but are there other coaches out there looking to do stroke clinics that would be willing to pay for a certain amount of time within our facility? Or are there other entities that are needing pool space that are outside the Stingrays? As obviously the Stingrays won't be participating or won't be having a season this year. So,
Hey, Mike.
yes.
And Nick was going to be one of the helper coaches for the season, and they had a coaches meeting this last week, a Zoom call. And while the Tri-County League was canceled, it sounded like there were still some thoughts about ways that the swim team might try and do some of their own things.
Right.
So I don't know if someone's been in touch with you about that, but it might be worth reaching out to either the Burns, because Tom and Stacy are presidents, or Kendra, and just see if there are thoughts, or maybe I could send an email to one of them to ask them to get in touch with you if they think there might be some ideas about pool use.
Yeah, on Friday I did receive an email from a couple that were talking about, if revenue was an issue and you're looking for other revenues, it's a possibility. And that's kind of what I was getting at. I think there are a lot of things that we need to go over before we would want to make that decision. Is we'd still need staff on during those times, our regular staff, which would account for that. So I kind of sent out an email just like, what are you willing to pay? I know it's like a tough question, but what do you feel would be available or per hour that you'd be using in space? And that's probably for me to come up with, but I'm really just looking at like a general, stat and a quick turnaround here prior to these new guidelines or this new table coming out, trying to get a feeling of what we could allow and what we can't. So now that I have this, I think I can probably use it a little bit better to monitor the budget aspect and look at other ways that people could come in. But like I said, I didn't get this till 4 o'clock today, so I haven't been able to go through it all.
You know, I think I know it's easier for me to say, but I think you having an idea of how much of a windfall or gap we would have to fill would be important, because I know for myself as a swim team parent, if I learned that it would just take a little bit more of even like a donation or a seasonal commitment from me just to put my kids in the water this year, even though they can't have the conference swim, I would be willing to consider paying more. And I'm just saying that I don't know if other families would be in that same scenario, but I want my kids to be as active as possible and safe, this summer. So I know that we would be willing to help, make that happen a little bit more if it just meant that, we needed to, put some more, not $40,000 more, but, like a little bit more just to kind of help make ends meet, pay the staff, make sure everybody has a job this summer, and get some kids some time in the pool or else in other activities. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there too.
Mike, I think Jennifer, maybe the swim team, the Stingrays could send out a survey or something about that if you wanted to entertain. And I just wanted to acknowledge we've had a couple more people join the meeting late, and I want to invite them to raise their hand to make a comment at any time during the meeting, even though they joined after the public comments.
Hey, Mike, can I, one more issue or thought? For the soccer league, we're having to add a new waiver to our registration process starting in the fall, which is a communicable disease waiver. And so just throwing that out there too, and thinking if you're going to have people using the pool, do you need to have some sort of waiver, or what do you do insurance wise? Because this is an all new situation. So I don't know what that looks like for you either.
Yeah, I do have one that I've more or less put together for it already. It has the COVID-19 information in it, so I don't know if it's on more of a larger span that we'll need to do that, but I do have I do have a waiver in place. It's not necessary. It's not on mine yet, but I do have one at least to go off of as a rough draft. So, but yeah, thank you for that.
Do you need any action tonight, Mike?
I guess I don't need action. I'm going to go to the village board. Sarah, you'll be hearing hopefully a better overall acknowledgement of what we need to do and how we get there if we were to open. I believe last Friday there were 7 communities that have already closed for the summer, saying that they're not going to open at all. There was about 40 plus on the document that said it's still pending. And a lot of, this week and next week, a lot of people were going to their committees and boards to kind of discuss it a little further. We're trying to do everything we can. I think the biggest thing for us is making sure we have enough PPE for all of our staff and making sure we're going along all the guidelines in regards to opening. The big part within this is, do we offer swim lessons? And if so, what does that look like? I was in a meeting today, and Swim West is on that, and they are going to do swimming lessons, but they're wearing protective masks throughout, and obviously their numbers are a lot smaller. I have a hard time with they were using face shields with it, and one of the members, I think from Sauk Prairie, had brought it up, but the guards aren't, the guards putting the lessons on, haven't been trained with these masks and haven't been using these masks. So are they really effective to try and offer a program of which you're touching kids, or you're trying to correct them on the way to swim? Now, if you have older kids and you're able to correct them or work with them outside the water, it's a little bit different. Like you're talking to the swim team. But if you're in the water with them, how do you not have that touch and contact, and especially if it's something that they're used to? So those are things we're just kind of looking over. The way that I've put the budget together currently is to not offer swimming lessons at all. to just offer open swim for now. But, depending on how those numbers come back, I'll kind of make changes or things to see how other communities are kind of going about this too. But just kind of where we're at. So as far as, direction from you, I guess, if you guys have been out in the community or you yourselves are willing to use the facility or come to the facility, you feel, okay to do so, kind of let me know, or not let me know, however way you want to do it. But I will be taking it to the village board, either way, to more or less discuss what those projections could look like for a final answer from them too. So.
As much as I can't imagine a summer in Cross Plains without the pool, and I've been here for a long time and always been at the pool, I really think we just need to be very thoughtful about how we proceed with this. And if it's going to be an expense that ends up being more than we can manage, or if it's a safety concern, I just think we have to be, and I appreciate that you are being that way, Mike, but just reiterating that I think we have to be very thoughtful in the process going forward.
And I filled out the survey, and I felt so like it's so hard to tell right now. I mean, I feel like even in 2 weeks, I might feel very different about this issue. So I couldn't even pick right now if I was likely or unlikely. And so anyway, and I would say, like Melissa, I feel the same way, what you were just saying too.
Yeah, and from my standpoint, that's kind of why I've been holding off. I wanted to put the survey out, but I wanted more information from the state and kind of the direction we were going. And then obviously things changed quite a bit last week with the change of the executive order. And then we had heard that Dane County was coming out with a different order. So the timing of the survey even going out today probably wasn't the best, but I also wanted to get a pulse from everybody before I go to the village board. So it's more about that of, if we were to do it, is it going to get the use? Like I really want to open for the summer, but I also really want to make sure that, we do everything we can to make sure that we don't expose anybody. Or what I had brought up before was, one of the staff members actually asked me, like, if we don't open this year, how do we bring people back next year or the year after? And I said, that doesn't worry me at all. What worries me is opening and having some type of exposure or some issue at the facility, because at that point, then it's going to be tough to bring people back, and I want to make sure, like, whether it be PPE, which I have done, we've done all the inventory of everything that we have, but are there other requirements that they're going to ask of us for this space? So, I'm trying to think of it from every avenue and every direction, but also want to give, the community something to look forward to for the summer as well. So that's kind of where we're at.
Well, are you going, if you were to open, would you try to monitor the patrons in social distancing?
Monitor on the deck?
Well, like, I don't see people actually socially distancing at the pool. And I wouldn't, I look around at neighborhoods, people are hanging out together. So I feel like, I don't want somebody who works there to have, like, that seems like a big responsibility to put on somebody.
Sure. Yeah, I think that is a big responsibility. And then, we're in a small community where we know that most people are part of a family or live in the same household, but, there are people that we don't. So how do we manage that and make sure, other than people just, doing it on their own and making sure that we're keeping, those requirements in place. And it is, I agree with you, Sarah. I think that part's going to be tough. Or if people are at the pool, are they going to do it? The Dane County Public Health are stating yes. Like, if you are going to open a facility, that's what you need to do and what you need to monitor. 6 feet of distance is going to be key to keeping, the transfer of COVID or any part of that away. And that doesn't really change until their new normal or phase 4, which who knows when that is. And these metrics that you have to meet to get to that point are also quite, they're going to be something that we monitor, but it's going to take time to get to that point too, to know what we're monitoring. So.
Well, and I would be, Jennifer Monty again here, I'd be interested when we get to the next part of the agenda, if I look at this holistically for Parks and Rec, Like if you're going to put resources, time, training into something offered this summer through Parks and Rec, what is the most popular? What maybe is the lowest risk activity that we could still safely support, and it would still make sense from a budget perspective? You know, I mean, it sounds like there would be a lot of resources needed to open the pool, and then just to maintain it, which at any moment the whole thing could come shut down, you know, be shut down at any time. So I'll be, as we go over the rest of the agenda and we talk about some of the other Parks and Rec activities and, you know, what guidance you've received, I'd be interested to hear that too.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mike, the two callers, it looks like you have it set up so you're the host and you're the only one that can unmute the callers. And I just learned from Bill that they cannot raise their hand to speak. So I don't know if you want to identify oh, okay. I'll see if either of the callers want to speak on the pool issue. Otherwise, if you have another issue you'd like to speak about during the call, we'll make sure to get to that when we get to that part of the agenda. So first is 608-798-3251.
No, I don't have anything to speak about.
Okay, thank you. And then 608-563-8498.
No, I don't have any comments on the pool.
Or did you want to make a comment on any issue?
No, this is Vicki Full. I'm just interested in the summer activities discussion.
Okay. And then Mary, it looks like Mary Roche has joined and would like to make a comment.
Yes, I just want to wait until we get to the mountain bike trail. That's where I want to make a comment.
Okay. All right.
All right, so looks like, do you want to table this, or do you want to give a motion for the operations? Looking for guidance from you, I guess.
Yeah, I think we at least table it until the village board meets, or until, what do you think, Mike? Or until we can really look through that document that came at 4:20.
Yeah, it would be helpful at least to give us some more information. And like I said, I've been trying to put together budget numbers. I didn't want to give you too much information in regards to the budget if changes were to happen, and I'd been hearing, you know, through different sources that the change was going to happen. So, you know, it's just more about the timing that we receive all this information and how it changes is going to affect the budget. So I'm fine with you tabling it. Obviously, I'll take, you know, what Melissa had said as well about, you know, being thoughtful in how we proceed and making sure that, you know, we're not using up, you know, or even what Jennifer had brought up too, with resources in regards to our department and how we're able to kind of move that forward. So that
Mike,
is more or less the
are
route.
you able to share which 7 pools already said they're not opening at all?
None in Dane County to date have said it. The first one to close was La Crosse. So La Crosse has 3 outdoor pools. They were only getting 1 ready to possibly open if we were given the clearance to do so, but for the most part, they were closing. Kenosha was another one. I don't, actually where Bill came from, up in, I don't have that list in front of me, but Arcadia, they also closed. Eau Claire pools were closed. So yeah, there was like I said, there were 7 of them on that document, which I don't have currently,
But none in Dane County that you know of.
Yeah, none in Dane County.
I did hear that the Fitchburg Splash Park is not going to be opening.
Yeah, so splash parks are as well. I think that's even more because it's obviously due with respiratory, and you have air coming up through those lines that people are inhaling. So that's like last on the face, it looks like, from Dane County, has been from that time. But pools weren't really listed on any of the information up to date. So we were always asking and being in contact with Dane County Public Health on how they were going to license us and when and how many people they were going to allow. Just weren't really given that info until today. So.
Would people on the committee be available to do a special meeting rather than waiting until the third week of June to follow up with Mike just after we get some more information? And
Yes.
Yes.
how would you feel about that, Mike?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd be happy with that.
Okay. So we'll just table it and have a special meeting as needed in June.
Do you want to make a motion for that? Somebody?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we would table the discussion and possible action on the Cross Plains swimming pool until a later date and possible emergency meeting set for sometime in early June.
And I'll second the motion.
Any opposition? Okay, motion passes. Next, we'll move on to discussion and possible action regarding the recreational program offerings for summer 2020.
All right. Well, just to kind of let everybody know, on March 11th, our activity guide went out, and then on March 11th, everyone was able to start kind of signing up for programs and things. In day one, and this accounts for pool and rec, but on day one, we brought in roughly $96,000 in revenue for all of the programs, summer camps, dance, I mean, literally anything and everything that people could sign up for. And then all this hit. So for the most part, and honestly, I'm kind of taken back on this a little bit, but for everybody that signed up has been very patient and understanding with kind of where we are and not really giving out a lot of information. Like I kind of stated earlier, we were really trying to work with the NRPA, WPRA, Dane County Public Health, CDC, on some of the guidelines and when we think we'd be able to open. We sent out a letter to there in the newsletter, thanking people for being patient and more or less trying to look at optimism throughout this whole thing about how we can open, when we can open, what is the need mainly of what the community. We're kind of like what Jennifer had said, where do we put our resources? One of the big things that we started up, a couple of summers ago now was the summer camp and full day camp, which is something that we really have been working towards to be able to participate in, knowing that a lot of your licensed daycares and places were able to stay open, as the need for that type of service is quite high within every community, but especially within ours. To date, we hadn't received any information from public health, but just to be patient and kind of hold off until the executive order was complete. And then today, with this whole Dane County order, it kind of gives us more information. It's a little convoluted still with what can and can't happen. One of the things that the actual order states is that daycares, hold on one second, sorry. Childcare settings, it says regulated childcare and unregulated youth programming. So the way that I hear unregulated youth programming is more based towards our summer camp opportunities are limited to 50 children per program. So we had 38 kids signed up for June 8th summer camp. So I feel like that, and this is just skimming through this really, really quickly, but I feel like that opportunity could provide itself to allow us to open that type of programming. It does talk about the tiers of how we're supposed to limit and allow people to be part of these programs. In the past, our biggest thing is it's open for everyone, right? We always wanted to make sure that we had a program, whether it be revenue driven or not, that it was something that everybody had the opportunity to be a part of. So I don't know about the tier aspect. We probably have to talk with our attorneys about that and the recreational opportunities, but I feel personally from just that we would be able to allow some type of programming to start once we hit into phase one. Phase one says that it would happen, as it appears, by by the end of May 26th, so 14 days after the 26th to come up with that. it appears, just reading through this really quickly, that we would be allowed to have some type of camp services, providing we don't have an intermix of those groups, of which we shouldn't have to do. So we wouldn't have more than 50 kids in our program anyways, as our space wouldn't allow for it. But it looks and appears that we would be able to offer that after the 26th of May. So
It's the 26th, not 14 days after the 26th?
well, it says that no, so that's one of the areas that we have to ask them, but it states that all metrics are at least in yellow to move into phase 1, but that none of these metrics will be, hold on one second. I'll have to get more clarification on that, Sarah. What it reads here is that nothing will be assessed and no movement into phases will begin prior to the 26th of May.
What page are you on?
So that's page 8.
Mike, what date were you planning on starting your summer camp?
Yeah, so with signups that we had June 8th as being our startup date for almost all programs that, you know, school is completed and we're ready to go. That's normally how we would do them that Monday following school being out. So as of right now, that's still what we had planned, was for June 8th, without making any changes to it, and just let people know we're being optimistic. At the thought of it though was that they were only gonna allow 10 kids in the program, or 10 kids within an establishment. But reading through that now, I see 50. But then I also see in here where it states that we won't, let's see. It says groups cannot be larger than 15 for childcare settings in phase 1, but prior to that, it says no more than 50 children. So I don't know why they would allow more children in prior to phase 1 or phase 2. So I have to get more info on that, but like I said, we just got this at 4:15. So
yeah. So Mike, is this another thing that we should table until you've had a little more time to look it over?
Yes, yeah, I think so. I just wanted to kind of let everyone know. I mean, obviously within the rec side of things, we're not running any programs that are going to provide a negative budget to anything that's going to make us use more expenses than we bring in for revenue. That's mainly how we always run our rec programs. We've been able to go through that entirety. So we do a budget sheet for all the programs for projected numbers beforehand, and then do an actual one after. We went through that projected number and kind of changed it if they were to allow 10 or they were to allow 12. Now we'll know more about this when I get the final answers. But I just kind of want to let everyone know our goal is to offer as many programs that were in our activity guide and sent out to everybody that we are able to do, obviously without overextending ourselves. So kind of going back to what Jennifer had stated early, this was kind of our plan from the beginning, is to put as many resources and opportunities forward for the recreational side, knowing that we can limit the exposure and limit the distance that we could have with people within those programs. So that's still kind of our emphasis and where we're moving. I'm just trying to keep the pool moving forward as well.
So I'm looking at the same document too, which of course we haven't gone through in total home facility, gym, recreation. And I think, are we talking about basically giving you some direction with, it looks like phase 1 is already met, and then you have to reevaluate in Dane County, and you have to reevaluate in 14 days after May 26th. So like,
yeah, but is that 14 days after the 26th, or is that 14 days from today?
14 days after you implement. So it says, if all metrics are at least yellow, move to phase 1. So that would be, we could move to phase 1 June 1st. Assess at 14 days after implementation of phase 1. So then you'd have to implement on June 15th, or reassess on June 15th to decide if it's got worse or not. So it sounds to me like we could, with the child care program,
right,
open that, and then everything would have to be reassessed within
But see, it doesn't, the childcare programs are listed in separate area than recreational activities, and all low contact recreational activities are allowed throughout every phase now, where they weren't necessarily before. So that's where I'm trying to figure out how, you know, all these programs, which one of these guidelines they fall under.
Right.
Team sports is obviously not allowed until phase 3, it appears. But the child care aspect is actually in a separate category.
Right.
And, you know, we're not necessarily offering child care where it's not a license, but it's a camp.
Oh, right.
So that's where, you know, I think having more information or more discussion with Dane County, with Kristen on Thursday, should allow us to get more information on how we go about that. I mean, the other part of this, and this is what I talked to the girls about, was, you know, what do we feel comfortable with, whether it be the age groups, whether it be the number of staff that we're going to be able to allow to be a part of this. You know, what do we feel comfortable with kind of moving forward? And so we're trying to put that in place too. You know, if we had 30 kids signed up, I think that's, in my opinion, that's way too many for 2 people to manage. So we need to, you know, update those numbers if we're allowed to do so, if Dane County is allowing us to do so. So, and then on the other side of that is, you know, for the most part, people have asked for some refunds for the programs that either we haven't been able to give them enough information for, or they just don't feel comfortable, you know, with that setting. And so we're offering 100% refunds to date. And we have done a few of them for summer camp, but really people are asking about the opportunity to do it. Like they're going to need it, or if they do need it now. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
So Mike, specifically about the summer camp, is the senior center still okay with it being hosted there in any capacity?
Yeah, so we did talk with Paulette about that. Being in the upstairs, obviously the kids would have separate entrances, separate exits than they would. And she's not really sure exactly how she's going to be bringing people back or when they'll be doing that. So we have, like I said, we did talk to her last week. She doesn't have an issue with us being there. For the most part, when, you know, it's a nice day out, we're not there. So if it's nice, you know, we're trying to be out in the parks or in these other areas. Now, not having a playground or things that they can do is a little different. But,
I was thinking,
we do have a number of games and things we can still be have them be a part of, and you know, it just diversifies our day, kind of makes a change in that regard. But there's some things, there are plenty of areas that we can be out in the open space, and keeping those distance from one another. So.
And you have made some decisions, though, other than the summer camp program. You've made some decisions about other offerings, right? Because I got an email about machine pitch baseball too.
Yeah, yep. So any team sports, we try to make a decision on to kind of let people know, like, this is where we're at. We want to offer like a skills and drills maybe come July, so it's more of a one-on-one, you know, a few in regards to instructor to kid ratio. We can keep distance and kind of just go through the basics, you know, with the kids. I personally feel like kids need that more than they probably need games, but at the same time, you know, what's our objectives and how do we want to offer that? How can we offer that? So we have looked at ways that we want to do some more skills and drills rather than team sport kind of settings anyway. So we'd like to offer that. Now, if this were to be lifted quickly and we were able to put together a season, you know, like with machine pitch that we do with Black Earth and in the city of Middleton, can we get those things in place, you know, in a quick turnaround to be able to do so? And I believe we can. We have most of the supplies. It would just be getting the t-shirts and things ordered and getting those in place if places are open to do so. So we're all on the same page, I feel like, at least, like the city of Middleton and ourselves, about how we could offer that. It's just more about the timing of when that could be offered. So for most of our team sports and programs like that, we have postponed. We just haven't necessarily canceled. So we're just trying to find different dates where those could fit, providing we get to that different phase to allow so. The one program that I hesitated to kind of postpone or change is dance, because of the space limitations and also the instructor limitations. So as of right now, that's still on as set dates. I have a meeting with both or two of the instructors on Friday morning, kind of discuss that further. And I think that kind of falls underneath the, just looking at this, I feel that falls under the recreational, low contact recreation. Obviously there shouldn't be any contact with dance. So that's kind of where we're at now. Whether or not they feel comfortable offering this program for them is something I need to find out. And then, we may have to cancel the younger kids. So like the 3 and 4 year olds that take a little bit more one-on-one time, or maybe even just decrease the class sizes a little bit. So it's kind of where we're at with dance, but the rest of the programs we have made a decision on or sent information out to parents about postponing.
Mhm.
So do you need any action today, or?
I don't think so. I just, like I said, was trying to give you an update and let you know where we're at. If you have any, information, or if you'd like to make a motion in regards to this about what you'd like to see as a committee, I'd be fine with that, providing it's in line with what we kind of talked about. But
Okay. I think we'll just move on to the next item then and wait to hear from you.
okay, so I'll just put that on the agenda again once we go through all this with Dane County and kind of understand where we're going with direction.
Yeah, get some more clarity on the definitions and such. Okay, discussion and possible action regarding the review of the Driftless Downs mixed-use mountain bike trail.
So, I guess depending on which route you want to go here, I've kind of given you an overview of how this has come about. But back in 2017, the village had set a memorandum of understanding with Corp to put together a plan and implement a plan for a mixed-use single-track mountain biking course up on Cedar Hill Conservancy. To date, they have finalized that plan along with what the map. I know that the map's so large it actually didn't fit on the PDF. That's why it wasn't part of it. But hopefully you're able to click on that link and get that map. Trying to find ways. I tried to actually condense it and make it smaller, but if you have, I need to send that out to you and get that to you to look at. Kind of let me know. But I believe Ron Mutowski is here tonight to discuss that further. He's one of the trail stewards that sought this out and has done a wonderful job at getting the trail in place, but also maintaining the trail that's currently there. It's just amazing about what they've been able to do. So if you'd like, I can let Ron kind of take it away to give you an overview.
Hey everyone, as Mike said, my name is Ron Konatowski. I've been involved with the mountain bike trail here in Cross Plains from the beginning with a few other local residents. I've been a member of Capital Off-Road Pathfinders for close to 20 years, building trails out at Blue Mounds, Camrock, Blackhawk, and a couple other places.
Hey, Ron,
yes?
I'm just going to ask Mike to pull up the map while you're talking.
Sure. Go ahead. We currently have a little over 4 miles of trail that we've built over the last 2.5 years or so. The trail is recently we've added about 0.6 miles of trail this spring. We weren't able to have a work day due to the COVID pandemic, so we did this as individuals working pretty much solo. To get this work done with about 3 or 4 of us this year, to bring it up to about 4.1 miles of trail. We had to cancel all of our spring work days through our club, so that's kind of put a hamper on some things, but we have a good group of people working on the trail right now, and working safely in terms of keeping distance and things that we need to do to keep everyone safe. We've added a lot of signage up to this point in terms of green trails, blue trails, black trails. So that is your easy, moderate, and more difficult trails. We added the sign. I don't know, do you have the map up? I'm not able to see it.
I'm trying to get it up here, but it's
okay.
It's like,
okay. I wasn't sure if you had it up and I just wasn't able to see it. But we've added some mapping throughout the trail system, as well as at the trailhead where we built a kiosk to put different signs, as well as, alerts, things like that. Asking people not to use the trail when it's wet, muddy, things like that, picking up trash. We've also added some COVID-19 best guidelines, I guess, so to speak, just trying to make sure that people are keeping distance, as well as not congregating, picking up trash, things like that. We have seen which I consider a really good thing, an increased use of the trail system, as well as a lot of people just getting out, families and so forth. But with that, we have seen just, like we see in a lot of our parks, more trash and a lot of, not a lot, but we've seen dog waste, things like that. Like I think we're seeing throughout the park systems. So those are some of the things we're trying to get the word out and make sure people are doing their part to protect the environment and keep things out of the parks that we don't need in the parks. We will also be adding a mountain bike trail etiquette sign at the kiosk as well, just informing people to announce themselves, don't use the trails when they're wet, so forth. So those are some of the things we've done up to this point. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people in my neighborhood, as well as others from, the local areas, Middleton. People are coming out to use the trail. They're excited about the trail. They think it's beautiful. So here's the most up-to-date map that we have. The section to the east, or the upper section there, that's in blue. That's our new segment that we completed this spring there. That's about 0.6 miles. So like I said, the entire trail system is about 4.1 miles. I think that's kind of it for my, brief review. I don't know if you guys have questions of what we've done so far. Or
Ron,
Mike, if you have any questions.
I don't have any questions,
Sorry.
but I just wanted to say thank you, because this is great. It's so much use. You hear people talking about it, people getting out and using it, and I think it's a really great form of recreation to have in town. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've had a lot of feedback like that. I know there's even a small amount of people using it in the winter, but we have had some snowshoers, myself included, getting up in winter, and that's really a great time also, just to get up there and explore, and really see the surroundings and things. So yeah.
So this is you guys were able to complete what was originally negotiated, right? Like everything.
Yep, that's correct. Yes. I know we initially, we've had a couple upgrade things that we still maybe like to do, kind of in the prairie section out by the water tower. So something up there for really, beginners or younger people that are just learning the sport to, practice a few skills in a really easy area. It's a nice prairie section, and we've also, had our eyes on, building like a picnic table or a place to sit up there and enjoy the sunsets out to the west towards Black Earth, because it's a really good view down the valley there. But for the most part, yes, this is the what was initially planned back in 2017.
Mike, have you gotten any feedback?
Yeah, I have actually, mainly from like some of the parents that their children are going up there. So there's about a group of 10 kids or more actually now that have been going up there almost daily since it's been open, and even since they've expanded. But a lot of the families that live along Gills Way at the beginning have a number of children that are along there that have used this quite often. I also know of a lot of people that have used it as part of their trail running opportunities. So being able to get out and do, run on it rather than bike, as they don't own bikes. So they've been able to use this as, for their exercise and kind of peace of mind. So from my standpoint, I actually have not received one negative comment or even email in regards to this. And, from my standpoint, like I had put in my memorandum, like I want to thank Ron and Mike I mean, they brought this to us in 2017 with kind of an idea, like a scope, you know, just like you want from your community, and they saw it through with very limited, you know, resources or very limited village involvement for that, for the most part. So thank you very much for doing that. And
Mike, did you ever, do we know if there ever were any calls to EMS up there or anything? That was one thing that was brought up in 2017.
I have not received any information on that. So whether yes or no, I'm not sure. But normally, one thing that EMS has always asked for would be a trail map for people so that they know how to get up there and or access if we do have issues. And I haven't heard from them in regards to that. So I think that would probably, if they would have had that contact with us. So.
And
Mary Brocious did raise.
Yeah, let's hear from Mary.
Hey guys, you got Bill and Mary here.
Hello.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for letting us talk. So I was up on the trail actually last week, and I got about 4 things that I want to kind of bring up to the attention for you guys, and then you can talk about it. First and foremost, this is more than what we'd actually talked about in 2017. I've been frantically looking on my phone at the agendas back in 17, and I just couldn't find the exact month where we actually have it. I have it down in paper copy down in my office, but this was far more extensive than what we originally talked about in 17. You don't have to answer the questions now. I'll just kind of throw them all up there, then you can talk about them. So my first question is who approved the expansions and who's going to continue to approve the expansions? Because, you know, because it's a lot, and even coming into the prairie, you know, I think there's areas that need to be kind of sacrosanct in that, you know, we've tore up a lot of native flowers. If you look in now, you see a lot of invasive stuff coming in, a lot of garlic mustard coming in, and there's another invasive plant that's kind of overtaking. So, you know, being careful about that, I think is you know, the beauty of that whole area behind there is kind of been torn down a little bit, in my opinion. And I got some other examples for you here also. So that's one item, is who's kind of approved the expansions in the past couple of years. Because I thought this was supposed to go to review to either the board or the village board, to this commission or to the village board. I don't recall. But anyway, next, if you go up the trail from the apartments, there's a pedestrian access to village conservancy sign. And that, I know we talked about, we weren't going to allow bikes to go up and down that pathway. That was supposed to be pedestrian only. And you can tell bikes have gone up and down that. I've got pictures. You can see where bike marks are going up and down that. Now I know we typically can't stop people from doing that, but I'd like to see some signage. If that's still the case, that no bikes are allowed on that. They were supposed to go around by KP and come up that meandering trail behind the nursing care facility. So kind of following up that trail towards the top, there's another Cross Plains Conservancy sign that is actually down. It says Cedar Glen Conservancy Village of Cross Plains. That's just kind of been knocked down and kind of on the right. It's right behind the apartments if you've been up that way. The area, the little R&R Gully Trail, Cliff's Edge, that whole area. I've seen what you guys have done as far as making it advanced and intermediate and beginner and all that. I gotta say the green area looks great. Looks way better than what I thought. Don't have any problem with how that looks like. The other trails that are in there, there's brush pushed up against the side. It really looks horrible, in my opinion. I really wish that stuff could be cleaned out, and maybe you're planning on doing that. But it's both north and south. Is really just full of brush on the side of the trail, and it really looks, it does not look attractive for people using that as a multi-use kind of hiking trail along with a biking trail. And then, was there anything else?
No, I think that was my main concern.
Okay, I think, so with that, you can put me back on mute and talk about it, but those are the concerns I wanted to bring to this committee.
Thank you.
Okay, do you want me to go off with some? I wrote down the questions here. So Bill and Mary, the first one, more than in 2017. So in 2017, we had kind of given them a corridor to work within or work in. And their direction was to put together plans for expanding those trails within those corridors to me as the Parks and Recreation Director, go over the different areas that they're willing to work or how they're going to do it. And then we go through the site and we talk about what they're going to do. And then I sign off on that type of agreement. And in the MOU, it states that Corp's obligations are to design, lay out, and construct a mixed-use trail in the conservancies to be approved by the Village Parks and Recreation Director. And then if they wanted, the way that we had interpreted that, in my opinion, was the only way that they needed more village board and village committee discussion was if they wanted to expand off of that conservancy, so away from Cedar Hill.
Okay, and that's fine, Mike. I just wanted to make sure that.
No, yeah, I agree. As far as invasives, I totally agree with you. I think, this is a year of garlic mustard. That's going to be big on any area that you try and open up. This is one big year for that, the way that the conditions sought out. If you look upon that hillside, though, you're not going to notice anything but a lot of invasives, meaning buckthorn and honeysuckle, the two main culprits throughout our community. If there are other things that you saw, I did try and, more or less steer them away from any areas that we had a large oak savanna within or had any other, remnant prairie areas that we were there. And Dane Ziegler, who park maintenance, obviously has a really good background in all those things. So him and I were always up there to look through the areas that they were hoping to do work in. So for the most part, I don't believe they would have taken any good prairie, at least, or taken away any of the good prairie remnants that we had in place.
Right. But you just were saying that you wanted to expand into prairie.
Where?
Can I speak on that, Mike? The one section that I was referring to is on the map. If you look between Rock Roller and Okie Dokie, it's a green trail there north of the water tower. This is an area that we had to remove some fencing in. Dane and I walked through there. There's pretty much just wide blade grass. So I may be misspoken, called it a prairie. It's pretty much a long grassy section with a lot of invasives in there as well. So there's, Dane can take a look at it. We haven't expanded anything. It was definitely still though in that general area there.
But that's still prairie in that area. Whether you want to call it grassland or prairie, it's still prairie.
So you're talking just to go to, like, if you're looking at this map, the water tank, you're talking to the technically south of the Okie Dokie?
I guess it would be east more. Yeah. That where there's that barbed wire fence that kind of runs through there. Yeah.
Okay. Which is also a lot of bluebirds nest in that area. Somebody has bluebird trail there. And bluebirds need open grassland to survive.
Okay. One thing I will state, just so that everyone understands, is that the owner of in between in there, so where most of the prairie grass and or grasses are established already, is actually private land and not owned by the village. We do have an easement for access purposes to get to the water tower, but the area that you see highlighted with the actual trail on it is the only part that's owned by the village. The rest of it is not, just so you know that. Okay, number two, the path to and from the farmer access, that is still true to date, Bill. There shouldn't be bikes, moving up and down behind the apartment buildings there to get access. We will look to get more no bikes allowed on that easement, because that is actually just a village easement. The village does not own that property or own that sense to move from those areas. So. Mary.
Well, another question that I've gotten, Mike, is to ensure that this is not for motorized vehicles of any kind.
Correct. No motorized vehicles are allowed on any village-owned public land.
Ever.
except for village purposes only. So if the village were to need to do different maintenance on these areas, we have access or ability to get up there to use our toolcat or our tractor. For the establishment of these trails, we also gave approval to go up along our easement up there for them to use different machines to put the trail in, but only for that purpose.
Are you able to use the access road up to the water tower, Mike?
Yes, that's what we use.
Yeah, that's what I kind of figured.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you are going to get some signage up on that.
I just made a note for that. So I don't think I have put any no bikes allowed on any of those areas, outside of this point. So I do have that on my.
Okay. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Just to be clear too, we haven't promoted use of that trail up to behind the apartments there. So I would assume anyone that's using that at this point is local to the area and knows that.
That's what I'm guessing, Ron. I'm guessing because you got the apartments, you got houses right there, it's easier to go up that trail.
Yep.
And down that trail than it is to go all the way over by the nursing home, which is a concern that we had kind of right from the very beginning. Remember, I know we talked about it. Yep. So yeah, so if you guys can get some signage up there and maybe fix that other sign that's up there, Mike, that'd be terrific.
So
I don't know exactly what sign you're talking about.
Mike, I think that's the one that the tree fell on.
Okay. Oh, like going down the trail?
Yeah, right behind the apartments.
Okay. Yeah, right behind the apartments, right at the top of the hill-ish type of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look at that too.
I went on the Corp website too, just to sort of follow the trail to, sorry for the pun, but to get to this, if you're a non-Cross Plains person. And it definitely indicates on the website to park either, I think it even uses the village parking lot.
That's correct.
On Main Street. So they're not, you guys aren't directing anyone to use any other entrances or to park anywhere illicitly or.
Yep. Nope. Yep. And we've seen that. We've seen people come to the trail and they park where they're supposed to park and they use the trail that you're supposed to use. And I agree with you. I think it's just local people that are going up and down there, but they probably don't know not to use that trail.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What's the plan for getting rid of the brush?
Yeah, so the last thing was brush issues. And so along the entire corridor of all those trails, so you were stating that the other ones look nice. The other ones used to look like the brush that currently is on those other areas as well. So we will take care of a lot of it. I mean, you're talking about wildlife and things, they do actually use those for nesting purposes and safety purposes throughout. So once snow hits the ground again, we can burn any piles that we have up there, but we normally don't do any of that during the months of fire, where obviously fire could spread to other areas. So we try and wait for winter months or snow to get rid of those. If it's close enough to a park or a trail, we'll actually bring it down and chip it. So, but for the most part in our conservancy areas, we use the burning technique to get rid of a lot of the issues that we have. Some of the cedar and things that you see along those edges, we've used to kind of help with any water runoffs or any issues that they may have, which is best practices if you have it, as you're using resources that are already there. But yes, it will be cleaned up much better than what you see now. They just completed that last section actually about a couple months ago.
I think it was 3 weeks ago, 4
3
yeah.
weeks ago,
Yeah.
Time's
A month,
flying
maybe.
right now.
Yeah.
We did notice a couple areas. It wasn't drastic yet. It was just pretty minor, where we were seeing erosion kind of going from a higher trail down to a lower trail. Just kind of that soft mud dirt being washed away in a really narrow, very narrow, like 6 to 8 inches wide, maybe a foot wide at the most. But it was just kind of starting in a couple areas, and I saw that Dane and company did a really nice job kind of going up that meandering behind the nursing home there to kind of stop erosion, in the green area there. But there's a couple areas that are, like I said, going from a higher trail down to a lower trail. There's no trail there, but you can see some erosion kind of coming there from where maybe, there were maybe plants there at one time or bushes that would stop that, or maybe they weren't there, but now it's obvious that erosion's taking place. So if you kind of see that, maybe put some black erosion material there to keep that from, getting worse.
Yeah, a couple things within this, just so everyone understands. So as far as staffing, we may have came in on weekends, or I think I came in on a couple weekends to help at different times, but Dane and myself really didn't have any do or say, and not necessarily say, but didn't have any doing of putting this trail in place. So
right,
Yeah.
It's the group that's taking care of that. So it's really where I should have kind of pointed that.
Yeah, and just stating that, like, obviously we are taking those like what you are bringing up to them as trail stewards to take a look at different areas. Obviously Mike and a few of the others have background in this and what's best practices and what's able to use. So we will bring this to them for sure to look at these different areas. And as you go out into a number of all of our village conservancies trails, you'll see some erosion during times. So if you do, we do look forward to hearing from you or seeing, that's the only way that we can really take care of it. So we appreciate you bringing that up to us.
So just real quick, are you guys done then adding trail then, Ron, or are you still?
This section, we don't anticipate adding any more trail for sure. We're kind of hamstrung with space, and we have a nice system here that I think we're all pretty proud of, and that is being used, correctly and appropriately. So we don't see any major things other than just doing some maintenance issues as we're kind of discussing here.
And I got to say, some parts of that trail scare the crap out of me. No way would I take a bike on there.
I'm with you, Bill.
Just saying. All right,
So
thank you.
As far as maintenance, are we looking to continue the MOU, or just now the village takes it over as maintenance, or?
No, I would like to see the MOU continued, and I just wanted you to all look at the MOU for tonight, and I think we'll put it back on the agenda here in June to kind of update and discuss. So if there are things from other MOUs you want to look at, or around the area, we'll take that information to put in and add to the new MOU. Just talking with Mike earlier, I'm not sure if Ron was part of that too, but we talked, there's only a few points to take out, about not adding anything more. Obviously we don't want to add more within this corridor, but the agreement extent for maintenance and things to, maybe do for 10 years, something that we don't have to update all the time or keep up on, but that's up to you as well. If you want to do another 3-year one, that's fine too. It's just something that he had proposed. So.
All right. So do we? I know a lot of people are using it with the COVID-19 thing. All the kids in my neighborhood are up there all the time. My 2 kids go up there sometimes up to 3 times a day. I mean, I'm not kidding. So it's been I think timing wise, it's getting used a lot from, we live right by it. So I see a lot of people using it.
I agree completely. So what I would, I guess, ask for tonight, if you have any more recommendations in regards to the MOU, we can talk about those and add them now, or you can add them and we can have this on the agenda again at the next meeting with the actual new MOU for them to discuss. But prior to that, I'll put together the new MOU with Mike and Ron and our attorney to make sure we're meeting all those standards. And as this one does run out in July, and Bill and or Mary, if you have any recommendations as well, I'd be happy to hear about those to add to the MOU kind of moving forward, or from the community in general. So just kind of let us know.
That sounds good. Hey, Sarah, I have another meeting that started at 7:30.
Okay.
So are you planning on action on this last item of discussion on the agenda?
No.
The naming?
No.
No? Okay. So I'll just look that over and then watch for minutes and we'll talk about it at the next meeting.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks,
Perfect.
Melissa.
Thank you all. Thanks for all your hard work, Mike.
Hey, thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Are there any more comments on the mountain bike trail from participants? No?
No.
Yeah, if you do have any comments or anything you'd like to add, feel free to send me an email or direction on how you'd like me to go. But otherwise, I'll put together the MOU with them kind of moving forward. That's good with the group, and get it back here for the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Let's see. All right.
And the last thing is discussion of possible action to establish a policy for naming rights within parks, conservation areas, and or new facilities.
All right, so within your packet, you should have received the policy on naming rights. Was everyone able to look through that and put information or more or less read through it and see how we want to proceed moving forward?
Okay. To find it again.
I had it up here for a second. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Did we not have one, any kind of a statement before? This is not replacing another?
This is not, no, this was all, oh, I can't do that. Hold on one second. So we did have this in a packet that was brought to you in March. Oh. This document, March 10th, that we didn't have a meeting for due to COVID.
Okay.
Has everyone been able to look through that?
Yep. You know, I've never seen one of these policies before, but it all kind of made sense to me. You know, there's a certain level of dedication and funding that could be, you know, maybe, you know, the naming convention could include a person, individual's name, or something unique about its feature, or something relative to where it's located, or, you know, unique within the community it's in. I mean, it all made sense to me, but I've never seen, you know, one of these policies before. So
yeah, that made two of us. Obviously, I didn't have it either, or had one in the past. So how this got brought to my attention was with new developments that are coming in. You know, we're getting requests on what the name should be for different facilities or different parks, and currently I have, you know, a development that went in place, but there wasn't any information regarding their naming of their park or any of the conservancies. So I thought that, you know, just looking through with other communities, that's how this one kind of came about in Dane County. Even Dane County Parks has some of this information. So there are other recognized areas throughout, but just trying to get a good overall viewing of, you know, best practices kind of moving forward, and making sure that this as a policy, obviously from the Parks and Recreation Department, but also is something that we can put in place for our ordinances for zoning and or new development. So
I'm surprised we didn't have anything like this, and I'm glad we do now.
well, we still don't. What I'm hoping for is, you're able to look through this, and we don't have to make a motion for this tonight if you don't want. It doesn't have to move forward right now, but if you have time to look through this one or look through other communities and see what they have to offer in this format, that'd be good. Or if you even have just an idea of how you'd like to see this proceed, whether someone gives a large amount of funding or a large amount of land, it's a little bit different than if it were already a development which somebody's making money off of, how we come up with a name. So
yeah, I think this is on the tentative agenda for Village Board next week.
yes, it probably anything that was on our agenda kind of that needed some motion or action, I asked Bill to add to. So
Well,
if you're good with this and don't need to look at other ones, then we can pass it forward, and the board could always look at it and see things they want to change and send it back to us on what those are. But I think this gives us kind of a clear understanding, just of best practice.
Mhm.
I think the only thing I would recommend is maybe just further clarifying the statement that in section 4, qualifying names, names submitted for consideration should provide some form of individual identity in relation to the following. Maybe specify like must meet one of the following. I mean, it sort of read kind of funky to me a little bit, but
sure.
Just make it just slightly more clear. But I liked, you definitely covered, if someone objects or wants, community gets notified and then time passes before it gets passed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things that I was trying to make sure that we had in there, more about the timing aspect of it. So, it isn't something that just gets lost. Like I feel like it kind of does now. It's when developers especially, so if it's in that sense of a developer putting a plat together, it just says village-owned land or parkland. It doesn't necessarily state anything on it. So I think those things should be a part of, when they're doing streets, naming of streets, they should also either, or people should be coming forward with the ideas that we can have for some of the objectives or qualifying names for it. So.
I would agree. I think the developers come up with the names at this point, right?
Yes. Well, no, that. It's been a really mix of practice throughout the past. So this should hopefully give us a better way of doing it. Kind of bring it down to the Parks and Recreation Conservancy Committee, all of you.
Oh, no, I mean the street names. Sorry.
Oh, the street names? Well, it depends. I think it has in the past. I think where Sarah's development was done by our administrator. So that's what I mean. Like we just kind of need more of a, and maybe there is a set tone in regards to the street names and it just wasn't adhered to. I don't know, but I know for Parkland and Conservancy, there really hasn't been. So.
I want to know where the name Twin Pine Street came from.
I know, Twin Pine. I know, I don't know at all. Yeah, or Shady Parkway. What is that?
Shady Circle.
Yeah, Shady Circle. It's just.
Well, Shady Circle is shady. Like there's shade.
Oh.
There's shade from trees.
Okay.
Not.
So when those trees are gone, then that's not going to have any meaning behind it. But no, that's fine. Yeah.
Just the creeps in the village live there. Yeah. No.
Well, maybe we should do something like make some sort of action on something tonight.
Sure, I'm fine. If you're fine with that, I can make the change to make sure that number 4, with Roman numeral 4, discusses the qualifying name should meet one of these standards, right?
Yeah.
I can make that change, and if you'd like to make a motion in regards to the rest of it, or any other changes.
So would the motion be that you take or present this revised policy to the village board for adoption?
Yep.
Okay. well then, I don't mean to be ignorant again, because this is my first time with a policy like this, but it feels very common sense and complete. And with Sarah's addition, I would, I guess, carry a motion. I would like to make a motion that the Parks, Conservation, Land, and Facility naming policy, with the edit that Sarah has suggested a few minutes ago, be presented to the village board for adoption at the next meeting, or
And
at a meeting.
I'll second it.
Any opposition? Doesn't look so. Okay, motion passes. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
Excellent. So Mike, we'll look forward to hearing from you about a special meeting in June.
Yes, sounds great. I appreciate all of your time, and hopefully here in June we can put on some more motions and make sure that we get to where we want to be come either June or early July. So thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.